WA DAMA skilled migration. Finding the right workers is tough enough, but in Western Australia right now, some industries are in crisis. Jobs are going unfilled, and businesses are turning work down simply because they can't get the staff. That's where the Western Australia DAMA comes in. It's a special agreement that lets employers bring in skilled overseas workers with more flexibility than standard visas, targeting industries where local labor simply isn't available. In this video, I'll break down exactly what the DAMA is, who can use it, the visas it covers, and how it can lead to permanent residency. Hello everyone, my name is Walt Collis, your trusted migration lawyer. What is the WA DAMA? Picture this. You own a boutique hotel in Fremantle. Your restaurant is booked out for months, but the pastry chef, who's been with you for years, has just moved back overseas. You start looking for a replacement, and that's when you realize there's a problem. The standard skilled migration list doesn't include pastry chef for your area. The English language requirement is higher than necessary for the job, and the income threshold you need to offer is out of step with what's realistic for your business. This is exactly the kind of problem the Western Australia Designated Area Migration Agreement is meant to solve. It's a special agreement between the Australian government and WA's designated area representatives, built specifically to address skill shortages in Western Australia. What makes it so powerful is its flexibility. For certain roles, it allows lower English requirements, reduced salary thresholds to match regional market conditions, and a much broader occupation list than you'll find in standard skilled migration pathways. Unlike most DAMAs in Australia, it's statewide. That means whether you're in the heart of Perth or running a business in the far reaches of the Kimberley, you could potentially access this DAMA, something no other DAMA in this country offers on this scale. It's essentially a bridge between urgent workforce needs and the long-term stability of local industries, allowing businesses to bring in the right talent without being boxed in by the limitations of standard visa rules. Now, while the WA DAMA covers the whole state, it also works alongside other regional DAMAs, and understanding that relationship is key if you want to use it effectively. Who can use the WA DAMA? Imagine you own a growing construction firm in Perth. Business is booming. You've just secured 2 major contracts, and you need a team of steel fixers to get things started. You advertise the positions, you wait, weeks go by. The few applications you get don't quite have the qualifications or experience you need. You decide to look overseas. But before you can sponsor anyone under the WA DAMA, you have to prove you're the kind of business that's allowed to use it. Now, how would you go about doing that? Well, first, you must be legally established and actively operating in Western Australia. You need to have been trading for more than 12 months with documented evidence that your business is financially stable. If your company is brand new or struggling to stay afloat, you won't get endorsed. Second, you must have a clean compliance history. That means no serious breaches of workplace laws, no unpaid fines, and no investigations for underpaying your staff. Third, you must show there is a genuine need for an overseas worker. If you simply write a letter saying you couldn't find anyone, that won't suffice. You'll have to provide evidence of your recruiting attempts. Examples of this can be copies of your job ads, records of the responses you received, and details about why the applicants you interviewed weren't suitable. This is called labor market testing, and if it's not done properly, your application stops right here. Finally, the salary and employment conditions you're offering must be at least equal to what an Australian worker would get in the same role, in the same location. Anything less, and you'll be refused before you even get to the visa stage. Now, once you've ticked all those boxes, then your business can get endorsed. You can then choose the visa pathway that works best for you and your future employee. Once your business is endorsed, the next step is choosing the right visa for your worker. In this scenario, let's just assume you run a transport company in Kalgoorlie. You got a fleet of trucks sitting in the yard and a mining client breathing down your neck because deliveries are behind schedule. You finally find a heavy vehicle driver with all the qualifications and experience you need. Just one small hiccup: they live overseas. How do you get them on shore? Now, the fastest option might be the Skills in Demand visa, subclass 482. This lets you bring them in quickly to fill the role so your contracts don't fall apart. But now let's change the scenario and say you found an overseas manager with years of experience who's happy to commit to the long haul. In that case, you might choose the Skilled Employer-Sponsored Regional Visa, subclass 494. This allows them to work in a regional area and, after meeting certain conditions, transition to permanent residency. Then there's the Employer Nomination Scheme Visa, subclass 186, which is perfect when you've got a highly skilled worker you want to keep permanently from day one. Think of a Perth hospital bringing in a specialist nurse who's in short supply locally. The 186 visa means they can settle in WA for good. The WA DAMA gives you the flexibility to match the visa to your business needs, whether you're solving an urgent staffing problem or building your workforce for the future. But the benefits don't stop there. It also focuses on specific industries where labor shortages are at their worst. Which industries benefit most? If you've traveled around WA lately, you've probably seen it. Cafe doors closed on weekends, resorts running at half capacity, and staff wanted signs that have been in the window for months. The WA DAMA is designed to target exactly these gaps. Take hospitality. A small coastal hotel in Broome might have a full bookings calendar, but can't keep up because they don't have enough experienced housekeeping staff. Guests leave bad reviews, repeat bookings drop, and the business suffers. Under the WA DAMA, that hotel can sponsor skilled overseas workers to keep the rooms clean, the guests happy, and the revenue flowing. Mining, healthcare, agriculture, construction, tourism, they're all on the list of industries where the WA DAMA can make a huge difference. And it's not just about filling jobs, it's about keeping communities alive. One important thing to remember, FIFO positions aren't eligible under the DAMA. The goal is to get workers living and working in WA communities, not just flying in for a roster and then heading back out. Of course, even with these benefits, not every application is successful. And that's usually because of avoidable mistakes. Common mistakes employers make. Even though the WA DAMA gives more flexibility than standard visa programs, it's not a free pass. We've seen businesses put in months of work only to have their application refused for reasons that could have been avoided. One of the most common mistakes is weak or incomplete evidence of labor market testing. For example, a cafe in Albany might claim they couldn't find local staff, but when asked, they can't produce copies of job ads or any record of the applicants they interviewed. Without any proof, the department simply can't approve that request. Another mistake is nominating a role that isn't actually on the WA DAMA list. You might desperately need a certain type of worker, but if the role isn't eligible under the agreement, the application stops immediately. We've also seen cases where employers offer wages just below the required market rate. They assume a small difference won't matter, but it does. Offering even slightly less than what an Australian worker would get for the same job is grounds for refusal. And sometimes the problem is timing. A business might spend too long preparing documents, miss key deadlines, or submit an application that's only half complete. By the time they fix the errors, the position they were trying to fill has now been vacant for months. The truth is, the WA DAMA has huge potential, but only if the application is accurate, complete, and fully compliant from the start. That's where having the right legal guidance can make all the difference. Why legal help matters. Think of the WA DAMA process like a two-step journey. First, you have to get endorsed by WA Migration Services. Then, you have to get your visa approved by the Department of Home Affairs. If either step fails, that's the end of the road. We've seen what happens when businesses try to do it alone. A small construction company spent 6 months preparing their very own application. They've done the job ads, gathered the financial documents, and even chose a visa for their worker. Unfortunately, they picked the wrong visa subclass. By the time they realized, their endorsement had expired and they had to start all over again. In another case, a farm had everything ready except for one detail. The labor market testing ads didn't meet the department's exact requirements. That one error meant their application was refused, even though the rest of the paperwork was solid. A migration lawyer can stop these problems from happening. We know exactly what evidence WA Migration Services and Home Affairs are looking for, how to match an occupation to the right DAMA list, and which visa pathway will actually work for your business and your future employee. It's one of the best tools WA employers have right now to fill critical jobs and to keep their operations running. To get it right, you have to play by the rules, and that means no missed documents, no wrong job codes, and no incorrect salary offers. The Western Australia DAMA can change everything for a business struggling to find staff. But it's not automatic. One missing document, one mismatched occupation, or one failure to meet the wage standard can undo months of work. At Australian Migration Lawyers, we've helped employers across industries from mining to hospitality to healthcare secure the workers they need and guide them through every step of the DAMA process. If you think the WA DAMA could help your business, don't wait until the staffing crisis gets worse. Book a consultation today. We'll review your situation, map out the right visa strategy, and give your application the strongest chance of success.